Angelica, how did you experience recording the most recent album? I've heard that Jose is very particular and very demanding musically as it pertains to what he expects from you in those moments.
I don't think there's another experience like the recording experience with Jose Hernandez. It's definitely a challenge, but it's a challenge that I look forward to on every album. And it's something that at the end of the day, you're just so proud of when you hear the finished product, because he definitely pushes us to our limits, I think, in a good way. And he brings out the best in every single one of us. So it's really exciting to hear the album afterwards and hear the finished product and be proud of what we accomplished.
Was there anything that you learned about yourself during that experience?
Definitely. I'm a lot more emotional than I thought I was. But I think it's all part of being an artist and like using, your emotions and channeling it into your artistry.
Mm-hmm. What about that experience do you think took so much out of you emotionally?
I think that as live musicians, it is a very different experience being in the studio, because it's every single note, everything that we play, everything that we sing is magnified in a way that you're not used to on a live stage. On a live stage, you can get away with little mistakes that the audience might not hear, but in a recording studio, you hear everything. And so it's very humbling to hear where you're not so perfect and you realize where you need to work, what you need to work on before the next time you go into the studio. So I feel like that definitely, for me personally, and it's not anything that even Jose pointed out, it's like stuff that you realize as you're going through the process.
So how do you feel you've grown as a musician through that experience?
I think I've grown a lot in the last 10, 11 years recording with Jose, because he does point out some really great points while we're working in the studio, things to work on. And again, just like when you realize when you hit those speed bumps, as far as like intonation goes and just, interpreting while being in tune, and then being in tune without cutting out the interpretation of the song is like super important. And those are things that I just probably never thought about before. And so I do feel like it's made me better. I'm just a lot more conscious of what I'm doing on stage as a live performer now.
I was going to ask precisely that. How do you think that the experience in the studio has affected the way that you express yourself on stage?
I think where you're just way more in tune with what you're doing. I mean, no pun intended. You're really just in the zone, and you're thinking about everything as if you were recording. That's how I look at it. Okay.
And when you are on stage, how much attention do you pay to the way that the audience is responding, or a lack thereof of a response?
I think that I can speak for all of the group when we say that the audience and their energy is so important for us as performers. Obviously, the better the energy, the better we can perform. And you would think that every audience would receive us the same exact way. I don't think that it's never been negative, but I do feel like some audiences are in shock to see an all-female group sometimes. And it also depends on how far we are. Believe it or not, distance has a huge deal. If the audience is closer to us, it is, or if it's a smaller place, it is more intimate, and we can connect with them on a more profound level. When it's a bigger venue and the audience is further away from us, it is so hard to connect. And so, I feel like we definitely feed off of the audience and their vibes.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned just now that you at times interact with audiences who perhaps may not be familiar with an all-female mariachi ensemble. Do you personally feel like you carry the weight of introducing certain people to the mariachi ensemble?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's a good thing. I mean, for us anyhow, I feel like as a group, we're up for the challenge, and we get excited when we get to show the audience what an all-female mariachi ensemble is all about. You'd be surprised, but even people that are Mexican people that come from a Mexican background or are Mexicans, they maybe have never seen an all-female mariachi group. And Reyna's has been around now for 30 years. So you would expect people to have seen at least one or two all-female mariachi ensembles by now. But we still get a lot of comments like, wow, this is my first time seeing all girls. So it's always a huge responsibility to do our best and to represent not just Reyna, but also all the women that play mariachi music.
You mentioned that you get to introduce audiences to what an all-female mariachi ensemble is all about. What is an all-female mariachi ensemble about to you?
There's so many more layers than an all-male mariachi. I mean, it's just from the moment that we're preparing ourselves in the dressing room all the way up to the time that we're performing, I really do feel like there are so many layers to it. Being a woman and being a musician at the same time is very different from being a male. I mean, one of the girls is pregnant right now in the mariachi. And so just her and her needs are just so important to us as a group to make sure that she's comfortable and that she's feeling good and that she's taken care of, that she's eaten, and that she's has the appropriate amount of time to rest before something like that. But aside from that, I mean, as women, I feel like we are very sensitive and intuitive to feelings and to emotions. So I do feel like that comes out a lot in our artistry. I feel like we give a different color to the songs, a different emotion that I just don't think is accessible with men.
And how do you make sure that you're succeeding in transmitting all the emotions that you want to transmit through the music?
I think practice makes perfect, for sure. It's not something that is easily accomplished. I think that the older we get, the easier it becomes to channel our life experiences into our music and our artistry. I think that as a younger girl, I think I struggled with that a lot because I was singing about all these like profound love songs that are beautiful, but I just could not relate. And so it is really about learning to kind of fake it until you have experienced life a little bit more. As an older woman, I can connect to so many more songs, and maybe not on a profound personal level, but just because of experiences that I've seen other people go through, or friends or family members. And so I definitely think that helps.
Now, I want to talk about the Christmas presentations at Cerritos. They're very unique because they're one of the few occasions that Sol and Reyna take the stage together. A and B, you are expressing mariachi through this theme of Christmas. What's it like to be on stage at that venue with that theme of Christmas in mind?
Magical. It's completely magical for us to have those concerts every year. They're by far our favorites. We always say that. We always tell the audience that this is our favorite time of year, but it's also our favorite concert. Cerritos is just a magical stage. It's just kind of a culmination of like our hard work and effort that we've put into the group in the past year, and then kind of like we just get there. And aside from, the songs and just the whole Christmas spirit, aside from all of that, it's just so much fun. Again, we don't get to play with Mariachi Sol de Mexico very often. So when we do, it's really cool to collaborate on certain songs, certain numbers, and the audience loves it too.
Last question, Angelica. ¿Qué le quieres dejar al público a través de esas presentaciones navideñas en Cerritos?
El espíritu navideño completamente, y pues claro que la música más bella del mundo, la música de mariachi.